Hello and welcome back to the live coverage of the Apex Gaming $2,000 Pioneer Open. I'm Tandy, joined by Ross Merriam and a wild young dingo in the corner. Say hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
Okay,
Hi,
so
Dingo.
all right, so I'm gonna let Ross give us the bulk of the rundown. We know the top eight decks, and we know what matches we're gonna be playing against this round. Ross, why don't you give us a little bit of an overview of what to look for this
Okay.
round?
So Dingo is sitting behind us here because he's got this round off. It was a clean cut into our top eight. So top four tables took the intentional draw. We know those eight players are going to be playing in our elimination rounds, but we still have one more round to play. We got a bunch of players battling it out for plenty more in prizes. Top 16 is going to be $65 in cash, so that's what we're going to be watching. But before we get that, I'll give you all a sneak preview of what's going to be going on in the top eight. So our top eight players, we have Jocelyn Rooney on Boros Heroic, Eric Heath on Is It Creativity? That's a Torrential Gearhulk build.
Nice.
Cody Hill on Gruul Midrange that we saw.
Huntsman.
Yeah, Gruul Huntsman. Garrison Fote, our judge turned player turned top eight crusher on
Look,
Rakdos Midrange.
Garrison's a powerful mage. He chooses to judge because it's a guaranteed payday, I
Yeah.
think. Because every time I've seen him actually play the game, he's playing crisply.
We got this dingo back here playing Azorius Lotus Field.
Yeah.
Brandon Carpenter on Mono White Humans. Brad Prosciutto on Mono White Humans. And AJ Childers on Abzan Greasefang. So notable here, no Mono Green Devotion in the top eight.
Yes.
And two
Very
Mono White
strange.
Humans. We talked earlier in the day about how the lack of Rakdos Sacrifice, 0 copies in the field, might allow aggressive decks to shine,
Right.
and that's what we've seen through this top eight. Boros Heroic, Gruul is a more aggressive deck, 2 Mono White Humans, and even the Greasefang deck can be quite aggressive. I think it's those aggressive decks, without being weighed down by the Rakdos Sacrifice decks and more Rakdos midrange, pushed it down the mono green decks and have risen to the top.
Well, speaking of mono green, we will be watching mono green a little bit this round because we won't be watching it any in the top eight. This is going to be Chase Ballard on mono green devotion fighting Cody Karkowski on Tarka Red.
Yeah, another aggressive deck made a pretty good run here as a 3-2 record, trying to finish on a win and pick up the $65 to end his day. This matchup can be a tough one for Atarka Red because Mono Green is pretty good at putting out a bunch of blockers.
Yeah, I do love the addition of Questing Druid to these archetypes. Are there Questing Druids in Cody Karkowski's list?
I will tell you in about 4 seconds.
2, 1.
There are not.
Okay, so it's a relatively new card and it's somewhat untested, but for the most part, the Atarka red decks are just trying to blitz onto the battlefield, play something like Reckless Bushwhacker and attack for lethal. The Questing Druid is nice because it gives you a bit of longevity, but not playing it I think is fine.
Now, what I do see in Cody's particular list of Atarka Red is 2 copies of Gorklan Rampager. That's a really nice one for attacking through big green creatures.
That's
We got
a
3
chonker.
Bone Crusher Giants, so a little removal for the mana creatures, extra removal there, and 1 Ember Cleave in the main with a second in the sideboard. Cleaving up a Bone Crusher Giant is also a great way to end games against mono green devotion.
Yes, sir.
So,
Yes, sir.
no Questing Druids, but definitely some good tools for getting them dead.
All right, well, let's head on down to the feature match area and watch our final round of the Swiss, round number 6, Chase Ballard's Mono Green Devotion on Cody Karkovsky's Tarka Red. This is going to be a pretty fast match, more than likely, so we'll get to see, hopefully, a little bit of backup match between TJ Radazak and May French, who are playing on our back table. But those players quite adept. May did make our top 8 yesterday in the Modern Open.
Yeah. Unfortunately for TJ, lost his winning in last round to AJ Childers on Abzan Greasefang.
Do you hear something? I thought I heard like a elf go.
Just a little yip.
All right, here's
We got a
Wolf
reader.
following that up. That's a Min Accelerator that cannot be shocked. Back Cody's way. We'll see if he has the powerful Burning Tree into Reckless Bushwhacker, turn number 2.
Only 3 Bushwhackers in Karkowski's list, so moving away from that one just a little bit.
All right, let me ask you a weird question while we're just deploying some threats and attacking. What is your opinion on the alternate art Den of the Bugbear in that cycle? Because it kind of looks like a D&D book. Honestly.
Nope.
But keep it light, but keep it honest.
Not a fan.
I'm a huge fan because those are specialty lands that have awesome abilities and they make them stand out when they're in your land pile. And I always know what the Den of the Bugbear is and the Lair of the Hydra is when I look at their land pile.
those things just don't register to me as magic cards. So I actually, even though they look unique, I miss them still
Yeah, but you
because
ever
I'm just
seen
like, well, oh, that must be some sort of weird energy Pokemon token.
sure. You ever seen a Future Sight Tarmogoyf before, Ross?
Mm,
That one sure
many,
didn't look like a magic card either, and people were all whiny about it when it came out, and now everyone's like, dang, that's easily the best Tarmogoyf.
yeah, it only gets worse over time.
Well, welcome to life.
Interestingly, here, Cody Karkowski has a Burning Tree Emissary in hand, has decided not to deploy it the last couple turns. Maybe trying to save it for a Reckless Bushwhacker, but there were no blockers for Chase Ballard, missing out on some damage by holding that back.
His opponent, Ballard, also not really deploying anything. No Old Growth Trolls, no Cavalier of Thorns, relatively anemic draws from both players.
Must be a Storm and Norman over there.
Okay, well, here is another land.
That looks like a pathway.
Crag Crown, gonna be on red.
Yeah, we already have a green source. You basically never need more than one green source in this deck, so let's make a Crowd Crown, not a Timber Crown pathway.
Nice, nice. All right, here's a hard cast Gorklan Rampager. Not where you
Oh.
want to be necessarily in the Atarka red deck, but
Seems fine to me with that Embercleave back.
oh yeah,
Let's cleave that up next turn.
oh yeah. Now we're gonna go back Ballard's way. Does have the ability to play Storm the Festival here. Could have a big combo centric turn. We'll see what he finds. Starts off here. Looks like with a Kiora. So maybe he doesn't have Storm. I think, a Cityscape Leveler sitting over there. So maybe just a really weak opener had the Llanowar Elf and nothing really else to do with it except Wolfwood Haven and drew a couple of lands and bricks in a row.
Yeah, I mean, hard to mulligan a Nykthos Elf Haven draw with some lands. Like, you've got a lot of good draws, just hasn't found them.
Okay, so an attack for 5 here, guaranteed. Embercleave is going to make it 11. We'll see if Karkowski has a way to make it lethal.
There's not really, if you're Karkowski, there's nothing you should be that afraid of. You could go after the Kiora first, but, well, actually, with the Cityscape Leveler, if you sniff that one out, you might want to go after the Kiora because your Embercleave is going to get sent to the Shadow Realm.
Okay, we're going to shotgun Stomping Ground, and then we play Burning Tree Emissary. We can use the mana off that to animate Den of the Bugbear, and then we have the option to send everything at the Kiora or everything at the face. Basically, well, I guess we can do a little bit of chip damage, but we have Chase Ballard at the ready with Boseiju, who endures, and this is going to blow up the Den of the Bugbear and reduce the damage quite a bit. And we're going to be able to go get a land out of the deck, but we can't kill the Kiora, and we're not close to dealing lethal.
So this means we're probably sending all 5 to the Dome.
That's what I would think.
And then the Cityscape Leveler will come down.
Chew them up.
Even in the face of Leveler, you can attack with Phoenix Chick and Gorklan Rampager.
All right, Smoosh. Hit you for 5. Gonna go back Ballard's way in this powerful 8-drop. About to come chomping. Might have changed his play if he found something like Storm the Festival here. We know he has a backup Nykthos, but not a whole lot of devotion. So this could be a really sick turn if he does have Storm, but looks like we're just going to go safer with Cityscape Leveler, and we knew that one was coming. Boom. Give you a Power Stone. Nice Gorklan Rampager. This 8-drop construct, often found in Karn the Great Creator's sideboards, but many of these Mono Green Devotion decks will main deck 1 as something you can mill over with Cavalier of Thorns, and then you can you can unearth it back later on. Draw a card off Kiora. Here's a useless Power Stone.
And now, after a sort of, not necessarily a dream start for himself, but when you're playing a deck like Atarka Red, your dream is for your opponent not to do anything in the first few turns, and that's what happened, but we weren't really able to capitalize. Played it cheeky with the Burning Tree Emissary, didn't go for a big swing with the Embercleave last turn, instead went for the Den of the Bugbear. I guess either one gets, eaten up by that Boseiju, and now we got to find something to close out this game.
Yeah. Magic is a game of edges, and Pioneer specifically, you're on razor thin margins in a lot of matchups and scenarios. And just like last round with our Spirits player, Cody Karkowski, perhaps missing quite a bit of damage with that aggressive start, not deploying the Burning Tree Emissary on turn number 2 alongside that Phoenix chick. That could have been 8 damage easily.
Yeah. So here's a Kumano. That'll get Ballard to 8. I mean, we can cleave up the Phoenix chick if we want to, but that's only 4 more damage. And the Cityscape Leveler can clean up the Embercleave on the attack. Kiora can then untap the Leveler and make sure it can play offense and defense. And that's not even accounting for what Ballard has left in his hand or on the top of his deck.
All right, so 1 damage does go to the Kiora as well, so it does shrink it by 1. And now, notably, Cody can actually play the Embercleave off of the Power Stone token, so we can attack with just Phoenix Chick, use the Embercleave to deal a couple extra points of damage here, and that might help him get over the finish line in a few turns. And so what I thought was going to be a useless Power Stone now ends up being a way to ramp out this Embercleave ahead of schedule while not leaving the Burning Tree Emissary prone to block.
Okay.
Down
A
to
little
5.
weird that we mixed up our damage. We just sent 1 to Kiora and 4.
No, it's guaranteed 1 from the Kumano. It hits everything.
Oh, it hits both. Okay.
Yeah. That's why our director stepped out to fix. Thank you so much. He's a Kumano stan. He's like, no, that Kiora is -1. Kick W.
Well, there's a Polukranos.
Yep, that one's
We now
pretty
have
scary.
5 devotion, so a land drop lets us transform it, or we can use the Kiora to untap to transform it.
Okay. Ballard gonna announce 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 floating. We're gonna untap it. Kiora down to 4. This is gonna go down to 3 and back up to 8. What you got? Could be a pretty explosive turn. I know he also has another Nykthos in hand.
Looks like a Cavalier.
Okay, so Cavalier going to go down to 3 floating. Look at the top 5 cards. You can put a land into play. The rest go to the graveyard. We also draw a card off the Kiora.
And now everything's snowballing out of control.
Yeah.
Cody Karkowski needed to go for bigger attacks earlier in this game. Get that Burning Tree Emissary down. Get the attack in with the Embercleave on the Gore Clan when you could. Although, again, you didn't know about the Beseiju, but just didn't play this game aggressively enough against the very slow start from Chase Ballard.
All right, down to 1. Now up to 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. So can maybe play something like Karn the Great Creator if we found one. And we still have a Nykthos and a land drop for turn. Not believe that's a Storm the Festival. So here come the fireworks. Chase Ballard gonna rip it off. 6 mana. We're gonna take a look at the top. I think he overpaid by 1, but you know, just gonna let it lie. Whatever, man. Keep up with your own dice. Top 5. Here's an elf. And an Oath of Nissa. Relatively tame. Storm the Festival, all things considered.
But it didn't need to be that, wild.
Yeah.
We've already got the things we need on the battlefield with the Leveler, the Polukranos, and the Cavalier to completely take over the game.
Oath of Nissa trigger can still go on the stack if Chase Ballard remembers it, but it's up to him to remember his trigger. It looks like we are going to miss it. And now Nykthos can be played from hand with the mana floating. We're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I think we should technically be at 11 mana, but we're going to just go ahead and burn all of it. And here's Storm the Festival, number 2 from the graveyard. Top 5. I see a Karn the Great Creator and a Kiora. But it looks like we're going to have to pass the turn against a Phoenix Chick with an Embercleave on it. Something like Gorklan Rampager might be able to steal it. But we do have 2 large reach blockers, so perhaps not. And I think Cityscape Leveler can also steal attacks, so maybe we just attack and blow up Embercleave. And I think that basically seals the game in favor of Chase Ballard.
Yeah, there's just nothing else that Cody's going to be able to do or draw. I mean, if Chase somehow plays it really slow, we could just rip burn spells. Chase is at 5. Maybe an Atarka's command next turn, and you go for the Polukranos. If you transform it, go down to 3.
Okay.
Maybe Cody can steal the game.
Okay. Well, this Kiora should definitely not have 9 loyalty. My director is getting a workout.
And taking a look at Chase Ballard's particular wish sideboard with the Karn. We've got. Is there just no mana floating at this point?
Yeah, we're going to move to attacks. This is going to burn all the mana if there was any in the pool. Now Cityscape Leveler
Yeah.
is going to turn something into a Power Stone. Ember Cleave going to get wiped off the field. No, we're going to hit Phoenix Chick instead, since it does fly. We have some reach creatures, so I would have liked to see him hit the Ember Cleave. I don't think it really matters too much. What really matters is that we're pounding for 8 trample.
Yeah. Put Cody to 10. And I mean, even with an Atarka's command, this should just be a lethal attack next turn for Chase Ballard. You can attack, blow up the Burning Tree Emissary, and there's no blockers.
Karn gonna go in minus. Looking at the sideboard, can find Sky Sovereign, some other thing to help clear. Oh yeah, the Ember Cleave can't be equipped anyway because of Karn. Lol.
Yeah.
Lol.
And now those Power Stones are definitely useless. So
That is often the case because Cityscape Leveler does come in from that sideboard package with Karn already in play, but wasn't the case for the whole game. Just another lane drawn for Cody Karkowski, and that's going to do it. Game number 1 goes to Chase Ballard's Mono Green Devotion deck. Didn't even need the combo. Just bursting onto the battlefield with a ton of permanents, but started with that Cityscape Leveler. A little too much for the Atarka Red player to deal with. However, you have to think back to turn number 2. If we just played Burning Tree Emissary, that's easily worth 5 damage over the course of the first 3 turns.
yeah, tried to get cheeky with it, thinking that it's sort of a combo with Reckless Bushwhacker, but we had plenty of mana. We had that play with fire. Cody was not going to have any problem surging a Reckless Bushwhacker if he drew one over the course of that game. You just got to get your creatures down in this deck. Get them dead.
Yeah. Smush. We got to be smushing. ABS.
Always be smushing.
As these players are reaching for their sideboard to get a leg up on their opponent, the Mono Green Devotion deck is just chock full of tutor targets for Karn. We'll talk about that in a moment. But Cody Karkowski's Tarka Red deck, why don't you give us a little bit of insight into what you think is going to be coming in, Ross?
Okay, so the sideboard has 3 Rending Volley, 2 Hazaret the Fervent, 2 Soulscar Mage, 2 Lava Coil, 2 Karizev's Expertise, 1 Embercleave, 1 Strangle, 1 Karizev Skyship Raider, and 1 Unlicensed Hearse. I like the Lava Coils. Very good answer to Old Growth Troll. I like the
Are they
Karizev.
actual lava coils?
Yeah.
My man pulled his deck out of his backpack that's been sitting there for 2 years.
Yeah.
There's no Questing
obliterating bolts
Druids.
here.
There's no obliterating bolts. This is a deck that this man played at 1FNM 2 years ago, said, I don't want to play this deck ever again, but pulled it out of retirement.
I like the Karizev's Expertise. That's a great way to take a big blocker like a Pelucranos or a Cavalier of Thorns and get in a big attack. And I also like the second Embercleave.
Ross?
I'm thinking about the Hazarets. They don't attack into Cavalier well. They attack into almost everything else. They're just so good with Embercleave.
Right.
I just want to Embercleave a Hazaret.
I mean,
It's so tempting.
that's the dream, right?
But I don't think you can bring them in.
I do want to point out, there are 0 ways for Cody Karkowski's Tarka Red deck to kill a Shieldred with 1 card. Perhaps part of the reason why he's got 2 losses today.
Maybe. I'll check for you. Let's see what he.
I knew you would. I knew you would. Thank
Melee for some reason is only showing me 3 rounds of his.
you. Okay.
He lost to Bant Auras in round 1. Actually defeated Rakdos midrange.
2-0. Quick win. Huh?
So yeah, maybe Shielder's just not a problem.
Egg on my face.
All right. Chase Ballard, his sideboard is of course 15 singletons for Karn. We've got a Woodcaller Automaton, a Cityscape Leveler, a Haywire Mite, a Pestilent Cauldron, a Might Stone, a Weak Stone, a Sky Sovereign Console Flagship, a Chain Veil, an Ezekiel's Chariot, a Transmogrifying Wand, a Stone Brain, a Damping Sphere, a Filigree Silex, a Pithing Needle, a Tormund Script, and a Darksteel Citadel. I could definitely see bringing in the Haywire Mite just as an early blocker. I could see bringing in the Ezekiel's Chariot. I can also see bringing in the Filigree Silex. So it'll depend on what he wants to bring out. I imagine the Cityscape Leveler will be coming out, but everything else is pretty good. Maybe you trim a Storm the Festival, just trim expensive cards like that. But you're not trimming your mana, you're not trimming your 3 mana threats, those are great blockers, and you're not trimming your Cavaliers. So probably just going to get the Leveler out and maybe 1 or 2 other cards Definitely want the Haywire Might in, though. That's a
Well,
card that is so much better when you draw it on turn 1
yeah.
than when you wish for it with Karn.
I got some bad news for you, Ross.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is advanced Bobby Fortinelli mono green devotion sideboard planning. But the Tandy School of Thought with mono green devotion, you know it, no changes. Why would you bother sideboarding when you cannot? And it's probably pretty much the same.
What if I just didn't?
Yeah.
Then you never have to de-sideboard at the end of the match. It's great.
All right, players are shuffling up here for game number 2. Looks like Ballard going to take a mulligan. Karkovsky going to be on the play with the Atarka Red. And perhaps flooded a little bit last game, punished a bit for not deploying that Burning Tree, but obviously wanting to save it for the Reckless Bushwhacker. We are in the last round of Swiss. After this, we'll be cutting to top 8, where we are going to play 3 rounds and crown a champion. And the winner will be headed to RC Denver, the regional championship in February next year, where they're going to try to earn a spot at the next Pro Tour and the World Championship. But they're also going to be playing for the final 2 players. They'll be invited to the Apex Gaming Invitational next month on the November 17th weekend. You can come and win an LCQ. We're going to have 3 LCQs giving away 12 slots on the November 17th weekend here at the Apex Gaming home store in Ohio. Make sure to check out apexgaming.gg for more information on those events. Looks like we are about underway. Turn number 1, Cragcrumb Pathway. Phoenix Chick.
Get in there.
All right, 1 damage. 1 damage. 2 to face. Birdman.
You know, the typical birds in Pioneer didn't do so well today. Our 3 Is It Phoenix players. Not a great individual records.
They got squished.
But maybe Phoenix Chick can bring up the bird record at least. Lay
Tap
down some
Stomping
bird law.
Ground. If you're Chase Ballard and your opponent plays Tap Stomping Ground on turn 2, you have to be dancing.
Yeah, you just can't afford to give the green deck time. Looks like there's an Embercleave and carries expertise, so a lot of powerful cards, but those cards are only powerful if they are the top end of a curve of creatures.
Right. Now it'll be the true test. Does Cody Karkowski play the naked Reckless Bushwhacker just to get in 2 damage, or does he try to hold it to pair it with a Burning Tree Emissary later? He went with the hold for Burning Tree time. This is actually pretty great. So
Love
we're going to
it.
start with a play with fire. We're going to deal 2 damage to face, and that's going to enable the Reckless Bushwhacker buff.
Yeah,
And
your opponent clearly doesn't have an elf. Just send it upstairs, get the scry in for next turn, maximize your damage output here. Now we get to attack for 4.
Here comes 12 life for Chase Ballard. We'll see if he has any defense on turn number 3. I know that Cody has not only Embercleave, but also Karizev's expertise into Atarka's command lined up next turn. If Chase Ballard plays one of these large creatures like Pelucranos, which he does, the game could be over right now.
Yeah, has Kiora into it now with the second Wolfalo Haven, so a lot of fancy tricks here, but I don't think they're going to matter because the Karizev's expertise takes the creature, so it'll get pumped by the command 2. This is going to be an attack for 10 plus 3 damage upstairs. This is 13.
Okay. Cody Karkowski has the perfect counter for the Pelucranos. Let's see if he deploys it. Karizev's expertise going to steal that Pelucranos. Atarka's command going to be cast after, but
we're reading the Embercleave. That's not the card we need to read right now. Let's read Karizev's expertise and Atarka's command.
Ross is holding his hands in front of his face. You can't see it. It's pretty funny, actually.
Just read them.
Here it
They
comes.
do good things.
Will we deploy the kill? Does Cody see it? Here it is. Karizev's expertise. Stealing Pelucranos. It's going to give it haste until end of turn. It's going to be mine. And guess what? I get to play a spell for free as well. That spell, boom. Tarka's command. 3 to face. 1 to all my creatures. We're going to attack for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 3 damage from Atarka's command. And that's lethal. Chase Ballard down. And we're going to have a game number 3.
That's how you draw it up. The play with fire dealt 2. The Reckless Bushwhacker dealt an additional couple points, and we're able to end the game as quickly as possible because you got aggressive. Take that lesson into game 3, even though you're on the draw.
All right. So while we were waiting for game number 3 to begin, I'd like to take a moment and thank our sponsors for today's event. Wings Etc. Grill and Pub provides a nice atmosphere and good food for the post tournament hangs. We always enjoy going up there. Last night, I had some nice buffalo wings, nice and crispy, with some lemon pepper and some mild sauce on them. Wasn't feeling the hot sauce.
Just mixing sauces.
Well, lemon pepper is a seasoning. Lemon pepper plus a sauce, I think, is reasonable and one of my favorite combinations, if I'm being frank. Also, thank you so much to uh, Ultimate Guard. Ultimate Guard's TCG supplies, from the Katana sleeves to the Boulder and Archive deck boxes. Make sure to check out your local game store and ask for Ultimate Guard supplies today. If they don't have them, ask them why. Thank you so much to G Fuel Energy Formula for giving us the energy we need these long tournament weekends to get through them. And we got 3 more rounds of top 8 to bring you after our last round of Swiss. And I couldn't do it without this tropical mango sitting over here, I'll tell you that much.
Okay, players have drawn their hands. Step 1 for Chase Ballard. Do you have a turn 1 elf? Apparently not.
Yeah, gonna mullet. We saw Mulligan last game too, perhaps looking for the same thing. Decided to keep a 6 with Wolf Willow into Kiora plus Pelucranos, but just straight up bonked on the following turn from the old Karzev's expertise plus Atarka command.
Looking at Karkowski's hand, it looked pretty solid. I'm not sure if the I'm not sure what to call it. It's not a checklist card, but you know,
It's kind of a
the
checklist
insert
card.
card.
The DFC.
Yeah, he uses them for both his pathways and his Kumanos.
So
I'm
if
not
it's
sure.
Kumano, good hand.
I'm not sure which one it is.
Right. Okay, underway. Chase Ballard going to be on the play. Has the elf. Karkowski.
There isn't a play with fire. There's no answer to this elf, but we've got a good hand. Oh, well, speak of the devil, there's a stomp.
Yeah, that won't come down this turn, but it can come down next turn to deal with the elf, but maybe the damage will be done by then. Here's the Legion Loyalist. This 1/1 with haste. Maybe the best Raging Goblin ever printed.
Yeah.
Me and my man Raging Goblin go way back. I actually played him a bit in Standard, circa 2001, I believe.
Oh, wow. I was going to say that the not block suggests that there's a 3-drop coming down this turn for Chase Ballard, but just another elf, so maybe trying to ramp into a Cavalier. Because there are definitely situations from the mono green side there where you want to trade 1-drops. There are situations where you don't. So that's a read for Karkowski that should tell him something about Ballard's deck that he chose not to make the trade. Okay. The checklist-ish card is a pathway.
Yeah.
We're playing it as a Timber Crown. That could come back to bite us. But I think there's multiple Tarkus commands in hand, so we really need the green source.
Yes.
There's also a Burning Tree Emissary here, so I like Emissary Stomp.
I like Emissary Stomp as
I would
well,
attack
but
first.
Karkowski seems to really value the free spell nature of the Burning Tree and may hold that for later. Here's an attack for 1. Ballard
Yes.
down to 18.
Still no trade. This screams Cavalier of Thorns, so you gotta Stomp. And does it without playing the Burning Trees, so we'll see if Karkowski gets punished again for being very patient with these emissaries.
Yeah. Trying to pair them with Reckless Bushwhacker it's like it's smart thinking, right? Like you want to prepare for the future. But what he really needs now is pressure on the board and explosiveness. And the Burning Tree Emissary allows for an extra 2/2 to be put onto the battlefield for free.
Karkowski's hand is a Gorklan Rampager, Atarka's command. So getting creatures on the battlefield is super important. We've got a Legion Loyalist, a second one, and this Emissary, and we're playing it this turn anyway. If we played it last turn, we get 2 more damage in.
Ross, make the next right play. This is actually an illegal play. If we could go stop them.
Blood Rush only targets attacking creatures.
Right. You have to already be attacking, which means the Burning Tree mana cannot be paid for it. So we're going to get that paused real quick here. We're going to get a rewind here more than likely. The Blood Rush mechanic, we'll get that on screen when our director comes back. But long story short, the Blood Rush mechanic only works after something has already been declared as an attacker. So you can't preemptively do it and then attack, which means that it actually works quite poorly with Burning Tree Emissary. And so Karkowski is going to have to find something else to do with the mana, and that Gorklan is going to be put back into his hand. They're waiting on the judge. When the judge comes over, we'll get the fix done. Until then, entertain me, Ross.
Well,
how are the Jazz doing?
They don't play today. They played back-to-back days. Nobody ever plays 3 days in a row.
I know they played back-to-back days because you were up late hooping and hollering.
I will say that the Carolina Panthers won a game, so that's good for them.
Yes, go Bryce Young. Big Bama fan over
Bryce
here.
Young gets his first NFL win against C.J. Stroud. That's pretty cool.
Well, I know that they were contemplating drafting CJ Shroud, what, at the beginning of this year or
Yeah,
late last year or whatever?
in the draft in April.
Mm.
Okay, Judge telling our players exactly what's going on. The Gorkland Rampager is an illegal play, so we should back up to that. The Burning Emissary was a legal play, can't back up before that, so we'll back up to Cody's main phase. You have green and red in your mana pool. Continue.
Yep. And this could mean just like a weak Atarka's command, but I think we have another one drop, like a Legion Loyalist.
There's a second Legion Loyalist, so.
Okay. And now Cody will get a warning from the judge, but for those of you who are unaware with Magic Tournament policy, the warning itself is not a huge deal. It does upgrade over time, but one warning, definitely not a huge thing.
Yeah. So we decide to go with the Atarka's command, and now if that Burning Tree Emissary was on the battlefield last turn, we could have Atarka's commanded and pumped 2 creatures. So we've effectively missed 3 damage now.
Yeah, and every point matters when you're playing Tarka Red. Can we get it to say Tarka Red? I'm sorry, that's just good branding. The Bama boy gotta put his stamp on some stuff.
Okay, now Chase Ballard up to 5 mana. Here we see the Cavalier.
All right, gonna go looking for a land, but more importantly, take off that little tilde. Get it out. Everybody knows Tarka Red.
It's just an apostrophe.
Oh yeah, it's not tilde. Tilde is like an Anye, or is an Anye a different?
Anye is an N with a tilde.
Ah.
The mark itself is a tilde. The letter.
Oh my god, he went
is a
back to his
specific
Tarka.
letter.
What a jerk! All right, here we go. 5/6 blocker.
All right, so we get with the Gorkline Rampager, we can attack with Burning Tree Emissary. Not sure what was that a Swift Spear as the draw for turn? And now we're thinking about playing a 1/1 when our opponent has a 5/6.
Well, what are you gonna do?
Okay, well we had a Gorkline Rampager we could have attacked with our 2/2.
Yeah, but then they just get back a Storm Festival, and you deal no damage.
Right, so I guess we're gonna try to set up for one big attack and be able to Embercleave plus Gorklan.
Yeah, it's gonna take a few turns and a few more lands, but I think that's the place where you gotta start. You gotta just find an opening to go Blood Rush plus Embercleave, and that might not happen before Chase Ballard makes essentially infinite mana, or actually infinite mana, in just a few turns. We find a Nykthos Shrine of Nyx off of the Cavalier of Thorns. We're going to pay 2, play a Nykthos from hand that's going to allow us to activate that Nykthos for 3, 6, 7. Here comes Karn the Great Creator with 3 floating, so let's see what we're going to go get out of the sideboard. A couple of different options.
Could get the Filigree Silex here.
Yep. Filigree Silex is nice. Blow up all the 1s, but could also get something like Haywire Might to protect us from future Embercleave. This is probably not coming down next turn, but maybe a turn after. Could get something to prepare for next turn, like the Cityscape Leveler or Sky Sovereign, Console Flagship. A lot of options.
And instead we go for the Pestilent Cauldron.
Yep.
So
the backside of that is the more important side, though, the Restorative Burst to get 2 permanents back.
yeah, and
Cody's like, oh, what's that do? Pass it back.
Cody drew a few too many of the Haymaker cards. You know, there's 2 Gorklans and 2 Embercleaves in the post-sideboard configuration. He drew 3 out of the 4. Not enough lands in the early creatures to have a really cohesive draw. And that's going to, I think, slow him down long enough for Chase Ballard to take this one down and then come away from this tournament with a win and $65.
All right. Once again, these players are playing for top 16. Our top 8 is mostly locked in, if not all locked in. Right now, we're playing so that we know tiebreakers. So we do seeding for the top 8, and we are just finishing out the Swiss rounds. Next round, we'll be starting with top 8. So don't go anywhere when we're done with this match. Okay, just another 1-drop Swiss beer from Cody Karkowski, and it's all over except the crying.
Stealing my lines over there.
Well, you're stealing lines from my culture, so. Okay, Nykthos going to go activating. That's 3, 6, 7. That plus the Karn can get Cityscape Level or something similar from the sideboard. Could also go for Storm the Festival here. It looks like we picked up. Could be a nice way to start this turn. 1 mana floating. Top 5. Get 2 permanents that cost 5 or less. Put them into play. We found Cityscape Leveler, but we can't put that one in. We also found Nykthos, so we can maybe go again from Storm in the Graveyard. And we found a Kiora, so a big burst of mana for Chase Ballard, and could find a win this turn. Karn can go get, Chain Veil out of sideboard and start doing some real cool tricks.
Sure.
I'm going to just tap out for a minute. Why don't you go ahead?
You can find whatever you want at this point. There's just so many big blockers in the battlefield, and Cody just doesn't have the mana to deploy multiple of those haymakers in his hand, and that's what he needs to do. So if I'm Ballard, it's just about being careful and going through the motions that he should be pretty familiar with at this point, as every mono green player should be.
Okay, so we're going to activate the Nykthos, and now we have the ability to Cure untap. We can also minus with the Karn, go to the sideboard, look for some big baddie artifact. We can also Restorative Burst. Restorative Burst has a few targets in the graveyard that might be worthwhile. I see a Pelucranos hanging out down there. A 4 life also puts him out of a lot of damage range from stuff, but we're going to take a peek at the sideboard before we decide if we want to plus or minus with the Karn. Ooh, the newer addition to the sideboard, the Woodcaller Automaton. Let's get that one on screen because that one's pretty interesting. I don't know if it's going to be grabbed here, but Woodcaller Automaton is a nice way to get a burst of extra mana. If you prototype, it actually counts the green pips from prototype in the Nykthos chain, and you can use it to untap Nykthos to get a burst of mana off the Karn. We often deploy it to provide 2 bodies on the board, either for offense or defense. Offense against planeswalkers, defense against creatures from the opponent.
Yeah, and sometimes it's the missing piece to jumpstart you into a combo turn as well. If you've got all the gas in your hand, but just not quite enough to deploy it immediately, the Woodcaller can sometimes just give you that burst of mana that you need to start getting everything onto the battlefield, and it'll all come together with multiple Karns and Kioras, and you start looping them with a Restorative Burst and doing that, fun mono green thing that I'm sure everyone loves.
Okay, so Chase just doing some really powerful stuff here, not going for infinite combo Chain Veil. Instead, we're just going to go Cityscape Leveler, knock off your Legion Loyalist, and then we're going to Restorative Burst with 3 floating, and we can get Pelucranos, maybe Lenarolf back from the graveyard, maybe something else. But both players going to gain 4 life, so Cody up to 24 and Chase up to 17, and that should just about do it.
This game has been over for a while. This is what we call garbage time.
Oh, garbage time. Get out. Well, get out the trash cans, I guess. So here's an elf. No. Going to get Kiora and Pelucranos. Cody here, soaking up as much camera time as he can. Pestilent Cauldron does get exiled. And with the 3 floating, I bet we'll play that Pelucranos. Might even get a little frisky and attack. Oh, we don't even play anything. We're just going to say go. Chase Ballard, afraid of something like Karizov's Expertise and a 3rd land.
You know what he's not afraid of? Phoenix Chick.
Yeah. Ember Cleave. I block. I block. We do get a Power Stone token. I could change math if a 2nd red comes down at some point for Ember Cleave, but Karn locking it down, so mostly useless here. Look for Ballard to either go for a big combo kill next turn or maybe just turn everything sideways and try to win via damage.
I would guess combo turn is incoming. Got all the pieces set up. Maybe a little bit short on total devotion. Yeah, only 7 actual devotion, or 8 devotion on the battlefield for Chase Ballard. So going to need to pump that number up. Those are rookie numbers.
You know, he did just draw Iska's Chariot, so he's not in the Tandy no changes camp. So good call to Ross. Now, we didn't draw a card off the Pelucranos, I don't think, but we can still make a boatload of mana. And then we're going to play Storm Festival from the graveyard. We still have access to Kiora and another Nykthos activation off the Lenore Elves. Finds a pretty weak one here, but one is an Oath of Nissa.
Any 2 cards will do. Let's pick them.
Okay. Let's see. I don't know. What do you want to talk about?
I'm just trying to check out what how the other matches went as I'm following along with the ends of this one.
Any updates from the back end?
And we know Dillingham and Devin Harrison drew, so that's Rakdos mid against Mono Green Devotion. They'll be in the top 16 because they had very good tiebreakers. Kellen Dragowski recovered to get a win and end his tournament on a nice note, so he'll still make a top 16.
Cool.
And this was apparently his first ever Pioneer tournament, so congrats to him with Azorius Spirits making a
Nice,
good run.
nicely done.
D'Artagnan Feld, PT Bench, Azorius Lotus Field over Boris Convoke, getting a little revenge for Dingo. I don't know. Would PT Bench need to get revenge for Dingo, or would Dart playing Lotus Field playing the same deck need to get the revenge? I don't know.
I don't know. I just need to go talk to PT Bench and ask him why he's not in the top 8.
And we got a couple of matches still going. There's actually TJ and May French still playing on one of our backup matches. That's Lotus Field combo against Mono Green.
Yep.
So we might end up with 3 Mono Green decks in our top 16. Just knocking on the door. Couldn't make it into the elimination round. So if you're just joining us, this is the last round of Swiss here. Our top 8 was a clean cut. So these players are playing for top 16 and $65. And once this round is over, we'll take a quick break, and then jump right into those elimination rounds.
Chase here, gonna blow up one of these blockers, sending in for 18 damage. Not quite lethal, but not really under a whole lot of pressure. And with Karkowski on so little actual mana, no combination of things really next turn threatening either. So Karkowski here, getting pinched, but no real decisions to make that matter. And he's holding on to a Reckless Bushwhacker now, and he's thinking to himself, I wish I'd held this Burning Tree Emissary longer.
Oh, man. Could have made it some chump attacks with slightly bigger creatures.
Yeah. All right. You get another Power Stone. You take a chunk.
Cody Karkowski fighting to the bitter end. The bitterest of ends.
All right. What you got, Cody?
Did we find that newly printed 2 mana 17 damage spell? Oh, no. Only 2 damage.
Blasphemous Act would be kind of hot.
Upstairs. Scry 1.
That's one I wish they put in Pioneer. We have Boros Reckoner, but Blasphemous Act, not quite there. Got cut off by 1 block.
Yeah. There's a lot of cool Innistrad cards that I'd like in Pioneer.
Yeah. I was very happy when they reprinted Liliana the Veil, because that was another one that I was super high on. And doesn't see a ton of play in Modern anymore. Same with Snapcaster Mage, but it didn't come. No blockers here for Cody Karkowski. That Phoenix shit can't block. So we're going to pack it in slowly but surely. And Chase Ballard defeats Cody Karkowski 2-1. Mono Green Devotion going to move to 4-2. Top 16 finish and $65 first trouble.